Welcome back to What Are We Talking About? I'm Ben Lewis, and today we are going to talk about a report that comes out from the FDA about the COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, if you haven't seen this, Blaze Media's Joseph McKinnon is reporting that the FDA finally admits COVID-19 vaccine killed kids. This is a profound revelation. I'm going to have the link to this story in the details of this episode, but it reads like this. The FDA's chief medical officer indicated that the Biden administration's coercive vaccine measures threatened the lives of American children. Millions of Americans across the country were told during the pandemic to offer up their arms for the COVID-19 vaccines, the first ever mRNA vaccines approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, if they wanted to keep their jobs, eat in public, stay in school, or visit their loved ones. How about we also add defend our country, 8,000 displaced because they wouldn't take the COVID vaccine. How about the nurses that were fired if they didn't take the COVID vaccine, or just employees of employers that required them to do this? Fortunately, I did not work for one of those companies. It was strongly suggested at the company I worked for, but I was not required to, because if they would have required me to, I would have quit. Government officials, the establishment media, and pharmaceutical representatives claimed that the vaccines were, quote unquote, safe and effective. Remember those words? Safe and effective. Those who dared to suggest otherwise about the experimental drugs that were making liability-shielded vaccine manufacturers record profits were often attacked and censored. Keywords, liability-shielded, so they could come out with whatever they wanted to, say it was safe and effective, and then be shielded from any liability, any lawsuits, and also make record profits. So you can make whatever you want, make millions of dollars, and not be held liable for any damages. And anybody that spoke against you was considered a right-wing hillbilly idiot that didn't know science because Dr. Fauci was smarter than you. Okay. Sidebar, watch the Thank You Fauci documentary on Angel Studios. Months after the Department of Health and Human Services concluded that the, quote, mRNA technology poses more risks than benefits for these respiratory viruses, the Food and Drug Administration admitted in an internal letter that the COVID-19 vaccines killed numerous children. Quote, healthy young children who face tremendously low risk of death were coerced. Let me repeat that just in case. The Food and Drug Administration admitted in an internal letter that the COVID-19 vaccines killed numerous children. And let me back it up just one more. From these liability-shielded vaccine manufacturers. Okay, so you can't sue anybody. So your kid died and you can't sue anybody. Dr. Vinay Prasad, Chief Medical Officer at the FDA, noted in an email to staff on Friday that FDA Office of Biostatistics and Pharmacovigilance career staff, quote, have found that at least 10 children have died after and because of receiving COVID-19 vaccine. One is too many. In the email, which was reviewed by multiple publications and shared online by the Washington Post, weird, Prasad indicated that the OBPV performed an analysis of 96 deaths between 2021 and 2024 and concluded that, quote, that no fewer than 10 are related. If anything, this represents conservative coding where vaccines are exculpated rather than indicated in cases of ambiguity. The real number is higher. I repeat, the real number is higher. These deaths are related to vaccination, likely, probable, possible attribution made by staff. These are quotes. That number is certainly an underestimate due to underreporting and inherent bias in attribution, wrote Prasad. This quote, this safety signal has far-reaching implications for Americans, the U.S. pandemic response, and the agency itself. So let me back this up. That number, this is what he said, that number is certainly an underestimate due to underreporting and inherent bias in attribution, which means that somebody knew better Somebody knew the truth, but decided, since their bias was everybody needed the vaccine, and why was their bias that way? Follow the dollars, that there was underreporting, and so this estimate is lower than what it actually is. Despite the strong improbability of a healthy child getting seriously ill from COVID, strong improbability, former National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease Director Anthony Fauci, former Center for Disease Control and Prevention Director Rochelle Walensky, and other health officials championed injecting kids with the novel vaccines. On November 2nd, 2021, I would be interested in seeing how Director Anthony Fauci and Director Rochelle Walensky's bank accounts increased after championing injecting kids with novel vaccines. That'd be interesting to see. November 2nd, 2021, then President Joe Biden's health officials gave final approval to Pfizer's COVID-19 shot for kids ages 5 to 11. Biden said at the time, "It is a major step forward for our nation in our fight to defeat the virus." COVID-19 vaccination for children younger than 5 began across the U.S. in June of 2022. Quote, this is a Biden quote, "These vaccines are safe, highly effective, and will give parents the peace of mind of knowing their child is protected from the worst outcomes of COVID-19. Isn't that crazy to think back now, knowing what we know about Biden and his capacity for actually functioning as a human being, let alone the president of the United States? And people, millions of people across the country are listening to this quote and saying, well, if our president says it's safe, then it must be safe. Wake up. Please wake up. Prasad noted in his Friday letter that despite evidence that the COVID-19 vaccines put boys and young men at great risk of myocarditis, Biden health officials, quote, did not quickly attempt mitigation strategies such as spacing doses apart, lowering doses, omitting doses among those with prior COVID-19. Smart. Got a lot of scientists that made that decision. Myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle that can manifest as various symptoms, including heart palpitations, chest pain, fainting, and weakness, and can also cause fatal cardiac arrest. Have you seen the deaths in high school and college football recently? Have you seen them escalate, the news reports? Because trust me, they report on all of them. Why do you think that is? Why are kids all of a sudden having cardiac arrest? High school and college age athletes. So if it's 2025, 4 years ago was 2021, and they were being injected as children with this COVID-19 vaccine that was supposed to save them. Quote, worse, the FDA delayed acknowledgement of the safety signal until after it could extend marketing authorization to younger boys 12 to 15. Continued Prasad, 12 to 15 in 2021 makes them 16 to 19 now. Think about it. Had the acknowledgement come early, these younger boys who likely did not require COVID-19 vaccination may have chosen to avoid the products. The FDA's chief medical officer stressed that the OBPV's finding that the COVID vaccine contributed to the deaths of children amounted to, quote, a profound revelation. Ah, yes, it was profound. Kids are dying. Quote, for the first time, the U.S. FDA will acknowledge that COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children. That's a quote from Prasad, whose agency revoked emergency use authorization for COVID vaccines earlier this year. So it's 2025. They started these in 2021. So 4 years of emergency use authorization for COVID vaccines finally revoked. Emergency use meaning that they can just come up with things as fast as they want to, push them into your body, and not be liable for any damages. Quote, healthy young children who face tremendously low risk of death were coerced at the behest of the Biden administration via school and work mandates to receive a vaccine that could result in death. In many cases, such mandates were harmful. And the only reason that he feels comfortable to say that is because, like I've said numerous times, they are not held liable for any damages. So they can say, yeah, sure, they messed up, we messed up, because they also cannot be sued. Peter Marks, Prasad's predecessor, complained to the New York Times about the, quote, political tone of Prasad's letter and noted, quote, I would not be surprised if the attributions turn out to be debatable, as these cases often are quite complex. This is obviously somebody that hasn't been affected by this and is probably profiting. FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary said in a, quote, Fox and Friends interview on Saturday that his agency would no longer, quote, rubber stamp things with no data. Doesn't that make you feel so much better that the doctor, who is the commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, will no longer just rubber stamp things with no data? Oh, you got a medicine? No liability, rubber stamp. Put it into circulation, force kids to take it, force people to take it or they get fired and lose their job, force kids to take it or they can't play sports or go to school. Oh, we're not going to rubber stamp things anymore. We're going to actually make sure that they work and don't kill people. Cool. Good idea, Dr. Marty. Adding that such a, quote, mockery of science was alternatively, quote, the MO in the Biden administration with the eternal COVID booster approvals for young, healthy kids. Moral of the story, do some research. Don't be pressured. Make decisions for your family. Something that gets approved that quick cannot be safe, cannot be effective. And we're learning over time how ineffective and unsafe it was. Protect yourself, protect your family. I want to take a minute to tell you a little bit about Cowboy Revolution apparel. Now, obviously, you've seen my cowboy hat on the cover of this podcast. And let's be real, when you hear cowboy, your mind jumps to the hat. The silhouette, the statement, but you're not always out roping cattle, right? You're navigating the concrete jungle or maybe just a chill Sunday morning headed to church. That's the gap Cowboy Revolution apparel fills. They're taking that iconic Western spirit and putting it into the clothes you actually live in. Starting with the gear that keeps your head warm and looks sharp, hats and hoodies. Their hoodies aren't just soft, they're substance. They're heavyweight fleece designed with a rugged durability that's rare these days. Think reinforced stitching, metal-tipped drawstrings that fits you and lets you move. They're built to be your best friend when the temperature drops, whether you're fixing a fence or just hitting the coffee shop. These are the hoodies that get better, not bagged out with every wash. And the hats, we're talking about more than just your standard cap. They've got structured trucker hats with classic Western patches that pay respect to the ranching life. They've got wool caps for that vintage frontier look, and for those who want the full silhouette without the fuss, they offer premium, crushable felt hats that are easy to pack, but demand respect when you wear them. Every stitch, every buckle, every curve is deliberate. You don't have to wear a full Western rig to carry the grit of the West. Just throw on a Cowboy Revolution hoodie or a CR hat and you're good to go. It's about quiet confidence and uncompromising quality from a veteran-owned company.